What's up, everybody? Today, my friend Olivia Anuhea joins me for a conversation about masculine and feminine energy as well as manifestation. She is definitely a badass manifester. She's like Miss July, August, September, October, pretty much the rest of the year. But we have a great conversation, and I hope you guys enjoy it. Welcome, everybody, Olivia Anuhea to the podcast. Olivia is a model, and she's also working on her business. She is a coach and one of the coolest, most amazing people, I think, on Instagram. Welcome to the show, Olivia. I'm really happy to have you on.
Thank you. Aloha, everyone. This is our second interview.
Yeah, that's right.
We did one
before, yeah, and we talked more about reality transurfing, but today we're going to talk a little bit about masculine and feminine energy, as well as your specialty, which is manifestation. And you were saying before we started that those two really go hand in hand. And I think this is going to be a really fun conversation. So thank you so much for taking the time.
Oh, thank you. My pleasure.
So tell us a little bit about your coaching and your business.
Sure. Yeah. So I give divine guidance to feminine creators of New Earth, so co-creators of New Earth. I specialize in manifestation. So I believe that manifestation is really the key in order to creating a new reality, because if you can't understand the principles of manifestation, then you can't really create your own reality, which is what 5D is about and New Earth is about.
Awesome. Yeah. And so, since these two fold together into the masculine and feminine, do you want to take just a minute and talk about those different aspects and how they work together in manifestation?
Sure. So manifestation to me is, there's two aspects. There's the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. And the conscious mind is more of the male energy. So it's action oriented, it's goal oriented, it's the doer. And the subconscious mind is more of the female energy. And that is more to do with programming and actually where the root and the seed of where all of our programming comes from. And so in order to make really strong changes in your reality, both the masculine and the feminine need to be together in unison to create something new. Because if your conscious mind has different beliefs than your subconscious mind, and that's when we don't see results.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really good. So we have the subconscious mind, which is the feminine, and the feminine aspect is sort of connected to the ether, the creative space, infinity, whatever we want to call that, the dream world. And then the conscious mind, that's like more attached to the physical world, right? Okay, cool. And so, yeah, I guess, the basic idea for any of the esoteric is to bring those two, uniting the two opposites, basically.
Yeah, I like to say that they're making love to create something new.
Yeah, I like that. That's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you were Miss July, Miss November, and what else?
Yeah, I know. I've just been on a lot of calendars recently, so I've been modeling for a long time, and I'm in Miss Hawaii calendar. It's exciting.
Awesome. That's super exciting. And talk about manifesting something. I mean, as a model, I'm sure that's right at the top of the list.
Oh, well, it's funny. I was just had a conversation with my girlfriend, and I said, when I was young, I used to go sneak and look at those magazines and be like, oh, these girls are so beautiful. And it just turns out like years later, I'm like in multiple issues of that. So I thought that was pretty hilarious. I did manifest
it. yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I see you help a lot of people too on Instagram, just like talking about this stuff a lot, and are really, I guess like a symbol because I believe that you and I have kind of similar views on the world. It's interesting to walk this line between, this manifesting and then also the backdrop that we find, sort of behind things, the undercurrent and some of the things that people are doing that are maybe a little bit nefarious and not so cool. And so, it's interesting to sort of balance those two worlds, but I think you do a really good job. And last time we talked about, you had an experience where you were basically fasting for a while, and I think in meditation. It was like a Satori type of experience.
Mm-hmm.
How did that kind of like, as a catalyst, change you and turn you toward sort of like looking into the metaphysical or manifestation sort of world?
Yeah, it completely turned my life upside down. I mean, it literally broke all of my previous programs. I didn't know what was real. It's kind of a scary time. I think we talked about this last time. When you go through your awakening, it's something like that. Well, for me, it was spontaneous. I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't even know really what happened until months later, because it's hard to wrap your head around something like a really deep spiritual experience like that. So it really just it made me think of reality very differently, and I just went on this quest. And a lot of things actually happened after that, little small things. Like I would hear uh, this sounds like crazy. If people don't know what I'm talking about, this is going to make me sound crazy. But literally, I would hear messages and just guidance from, I guess it would be my higher self or my angels and my guides. And there was one point that I was meditating a lot and I was fasting. I was cleaning out my body a ton. And so I feel like that really pushed me to have a stronger connection to source and to my higher self and my guides. And they would send me messages like it would be in my kind of like telepathically actually on what I should be doing. And that's when I figured out that, I no longer wanted to participate in the 9 to 5 rat race. And I wanted to create something new. And so I wanted to learn about manifestation. And that's how I got here.
That's great. Yeah, participating in the rat race, it's not going to work. I mean, especially again with the backdrop that we're set with right now. This is a really important time, I think, for people to find their own way and to create for themselves. Otherwise, the old idea of, I finish school and I get a job is basically, it's not a reality anymore, I don't think.
Yeah, it's a shitty reality if you'd like to participate, in my opinion.
Yeah, I never really liked it either. I much prefer, having my own skills that I could use, and I'm continuing with all of that, and it's been a lot more rewarding than working for somebody else and then just getting off work and then like playing video games. It's been a lot of work, but I think it's totally worth it, and especially now with the way things have been recently, it's really really important for people to be able to take control of their own lives, their own destinies, their own purpose, whatever. So let's talk a little bit about that. I'm sure there's a lot of people right now too who are sort of spontaneously awakening, going through a similar phase that you did. And I mean, I don't know if mine was spontaneous. Mine probably wasn't, but I've had a few glimpses, I guess, into some things, which has been very life affirming and powerful. But just as far as like supporting people and using these tools, how can we talk to folks and give them some insight into how to develop their own abilities, especially now at such a critical time.
Yeah, I know this world is really changing, and a lot of people can be scared of it. But I think it's a huge blessing because, like you said before, everything is changing, and people are deciding that the 9 to 5 rat race no longer suits them, and they really do want to create something different. And people are finding their way through learning about universal laws and the way this reality really works, and financial literacy and self development. And it's just a beautiful process to watch. That now more than ever, I'm getting more clients interested in learning about self development and how to, what really is important, in my opinion. Because like when we go to college and things like that, a lot of times people don't even use their degrees. And it's kind of sad to see all that money be wasted. So I always just say start with, what are you called to, basically? And sometimes people don't know, but when you're developing a manifestation routine, it's important to connect to your higher self. And being able to read signs in your reality is really important. So for me, like for example, before all this happened, I would get signs like numbers, symbols that just made me feel good. And I started there. I was like, okay, that makes me feel good. So for me, it's like about following the breadcrumbs. If I see some like numbers, angel numbers like 1111, to me, that's like, okay, what was I thinking before that? And then I try to reverse engineer, I guess, the thoughts and the feelings that came from that symbol in my reality, if that makes sense. And then from there, I'll just kind of follow that. I follow the signs. It's very intuitive, I guess you could say, and not many people can develop the skill quickly. It takes time, but it takes like a lot of practice, but it's been rewarding to me. That's how I've gotten to where I've been, and I feel super aligned by just following signs.
That is literally what I did for a long, long time. I didn't do a lot of visualizations or any of that just because I would, allow different opportunities to sort of present themselves and then just pick from the litter of options that there were. And that's interesting. I think, moving forward, it might be necessary to have a little bit more intent as far as and be a little bit more specific about what we want. It's like with the state of the world, but the intuitive aspect and the taking practice aspect, I definitely relate to that, as well as the breadcrumb aspect. So a little about signs for anybody who's unfamiliar. Signs, you see things, and sometimes I've just known. When I was in college, I was about to graduate. This girl came in and did a presentation about her internship. She did her internship at Outward Bound in Costa Rica, and I knew right then that I was going to go and do that program. I don't know why, but I just knew in that moment. And at that point, I wasn't really into any of this stuff, but something told me. And that's the same place that I listen to when I'm trying to, make a strategy and figure out what I want to do next as well. Other times, I've seen just weird things that might happen. My day might go a little bit funky to what I had in mind, and then it might present an opportunity that I didn't otherwise expect to see.
Yeah, when you're open to the signs, it's just like they start flowing. Like I've claimed it. I'm like, hey, look, okay, double rainbows mean something to me. So when I see a double rainbow, I know like, okay, something's happening in my favor, because reality transurfing is a book that we've talked about before, and it says in there that, or Vadim, I believe, says that double rainbows mean something. Also, butterflies mean something to me. It sounds really, really funny because we're so disconnected from the intuitive realm, the quantum realm. We're always so stuck in the physical. Well, that was our programming before, and when you start to kind of play with the energetics of things, your whole reality shifts and things start to present themselves, like you said, opportunities and signs.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point too. The feminine, aspect and all of that, us being sort of cut off from it. We're definitely more in our masculine selves. And you can see that too, I think, in culture where, like in cartoons, I think I heard somebody say this, maybe Mark Passio, where he was talking about like all those cartoons where they tie the damsel in distress up to the railroad tracks and all of that kind of stuff. It's the death of the feminine. It's cutting off from that and connecting us more to this masculine, physical existence. And maybe now's a good time to sort of dive in and further define, masculine and feminine. That David Data book, The Way of the Superior Man, highly recommend it to anybody. You had a really good comment before we started rolling.
Yeah, so he's Owen said that we were just talked about. Actually, he's the one who introduced me to the book, and I always tell my male clients, I'm like, here, bitch, read this, because it really does open your eyes to what a man is supposed to be. And after I read that book, I had a better respect and a better understanding for the male species.
Well, that's not a bad thing. We're all grateful for that, and likewise, the same thing happened to me when I read the book. When I read the book, on behalf of females, the way that I've interacted with my mom and sister, people close to me, etc. It's been a lot. I don't know if it's been easier, but I've gotten more insight. I've gotten more insight out of it and understood a little bit better. Like, oh, I see. She just wants to let go of her feelings. So in the beginning of the book, he talks about the difference between the masculine and feminine. And I think he does a really good job, just even in a few words, just talking about how the masculine is your awareness, like your concrete, grounded awareness that doesn't move, right? Like our bodies and cells are constantly being replaced. We're not even physically the same thing that we were, a few years ago as beings. But that awareness somehow has maintained and sustained our entire life. Whereas the feminine is the world that constantly moves, the motion. Like the masculine is that stillness, that grounded energy. It's connected to logic. And if you look at like a like an occult anatomy kind of thing, you'll notice that the masculine side is like chained to a pillar, and which is crazy. But I can relate to that a little bit. But we all have masculine aspects, right? Like this isn't sexual. This has nothing to do with gender, but
Yeah.
that masculine awareness aspect, and then that feminine aspect of just spontaneity and motion and nothing ever being the same. And in that book, he talks a lot about how how different that feminine role is, and how it can just go so deep and change so quickly, and it sort of tests the masculine a little bit, right? Like just like maybe something like, what do you want for dinner? I don't care. How about how about tacos? No, not tacos. Anything but tacos.
And then how about pizza? No, not pizza either. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Women are wild. I'm sorry. I'm just joking.
No, it's okay, and it's great. It wouldn't be fun if it wasn't mysterious.
Exactly. Bring the spice to life for sure. Yeah. Men are the givers and women are receivers. And I feel like, speaking from experience for my clients, I deal with mostly women, but I do have some male clients. But we have a big issue with receiving. We're always the ones it's inverted, basically. We pick up a lot of masculine traits as we grow up because that's the way society has programmed us. I'm talking about women. And so it's inverted, the energy. So a lot of times when a woman is too masculine or too much in her masculine energy in a relationship, the man becomes too much feminine. And that's why we have disharmony in relationships, I believe. So having women to drop back into their feminine and be able to receive praise, adoration. Sometimes we feel like we have to do stuff, just always be on the move. And that's so disharmonic.
Yeah, I can relate to that. It is super confusing, and I do think society is kind of set up to work against us a little bit in our natural like essences. Because like as a man, it sometimes feels like a lot of pressure. I've got to do all of this stuff, and David Data talks about like riding your edge in there and purpose. And this is just the masculine aspect, but going toward the thing that you fear is going toward your deepest purpose. And the way he draws it in the book is like concentric circles, like a circle inside of a circle inside of a circle. And as you go down, you're going through all these different, like what I would call function. Like I think your purpose is pretty singular and probably not really easy to explain. It's not like a thing, right? It's like this is what I do. Like I bring joy to people, right? Like that might look
It's a
differently.
concept.
Right. It's totally a concept. And then as you work through those deeper levels of purpose, then those are more specific functions that maybe you can operate in. So that's always going to be guided by fear, which which makes a lot of sense. You want to go toward the fear, grow. That's how we expand and evolve and do those types of things. And then the feminine, I do agree. Like as men growing up, especially, we don't have like a strong masculine male role model. For instance, usually most of our fathers are out working somewhere else. We're not. It's not like a tribal thing. We would go out with them and go fishing and locker room talk or whatever,
Yeah. I believe that, tribal and ancient cultures really kind of have initiations for, men and women, and at certain ages that you learn certain things. And that's why their communities are so strong. But, in the Western world and most of, I guess other civilizations, we just kind of are cut off from that, and so it's disharmonic.
Yeah, it is. You come up and I think a lot of the research that I've looked into is just it makes people pleasers as opposed to like standing strong. And I can attest to this. I've definitely done it a lot. It's just like I'll go along with something because I don't want to rock the boat when in reality I'm not comfortable with it or it's not what I really want, and I'll just do it anyway. And that's not riding the edge. That's not going toward fear. That's not, and it's not about like escapism or, going toward fear in a negative way, but just that the next thing that you need to do is usually highlighted by, oh my God, I don't want to really have to do this. Do I really have to do this?
Yeah.
And you do. Like,
Yeah.
if you want to grow and evolve, then yeah, you do. You need to take that. That's how you kind of level up.
Yeah, that's how you break your old shell and become a new person, a new version of yourself, and then also following your signs. Exactly what we were talking about earlier. It's like dropping into the feminine and being able to read what shows up in your reality. Like, what does it mean on an energetic level if I feel this way, or if I see this symbol that, has some sort of resonance to me? It means that, your signs, you're supported. That's what it means. So identifying your signs is a huge part of my program, because a lot of times people don't even realize, like they'll see things like, for example, they'll put on their manifestation list, like, I got a free donut, something random. I always have them do like a random list just to test their abilities. And so we'll meet in a week, and then I'll say, well, what manifested? They'll read their list to me, and they'll be like, well, I did get a free donut. And I'm like, okay, well, you manifested it. And they're like, no, but it was somebody, and then they'll make up a story on why it wasn't meant for them. And so we're just so conditioned and programmed to not receive, dropping into the feminine.
Yeah, it's true. We are very programmed to not receive. But like those finding those signs, it's really interesting because we've got this masculine awareness that doesn't change, and then all these things are flowing around us, which is very feminine. And so, finding those gifts and identifying them, and then it's time to take it like a masculine action once you do see
Yeah.
that sign. And so I think often we do see the signs, and we may just be negligent and just be like, yeah, that does look like the way, huh? And then just
Yeah.
keep on going, the same way. So it's really about uniting those two principles, obviously, right? Like, one isn't more important than the other, or anything like that. And just to make that clear, but that we both, men and women, have both of those aspects, and really trying to find a way to use them both. I find that, like, I try to have the heart or the feminine like lead, and then the masculine sort of, I don't know, maybe that's backwards, and then the masculine sort of choose
Supporting
from,
role.
yeah, sort of in the supporting role. Because I find that, they say what they say, the heart wants what it wants, like this, there is like your heart, your soul, whatever we want to call that is just like, it wants a specific thing, and it's not going to be satisfied with anything else. So I feel like it's about like serving that, like the deepest sort of desire, which is somehow connected to infinity as well as the higher self.
That's beautiful. I like that explanation.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you.
Yeah.
I've been writing some comedy stuff about the higher self, just like trying to get through, just like in a window, like on your shoulder, just like yelling at you, like, hey, calling you on the phone, texting you, like, need to
Well,
talk to you.
exactly. And your higher self is the one that sends you the signs. Puts little things in your reality for you to be like, hello, wake up. Like, here's your way, here's your path. You asked for it, and I'm putting it in your face. But we just somehow we're just so far away from it, sometimes.
It's true. It does happen. And in those times, it's all right. We're always going to fall asleep and wake up. But what are maybe some ways that you can kind of remind yourself, to be aware, to be noticing the signs, and to just kind of wake up in the dream?
Yeah, for me, my personal experience is just how it makes me feel. Like, it's all intuitive. Everything is energy. Everything is a frequency. Everything is a vibration. And so when you can tap into the way something makes you feel, that's a good sign of whether it's for you or not. I'm not saying that it's going to be always true, but if you work on, building up what your intuition tells you, you can kind of be more discerning on these types of things on an energetic level.
Yeah, I think that's really good. Like, I think that the how it makes you feel sort of thing is like very like binary, like yes or no. It's just like a light switch. It's either on or off. And that like when I was in class, and that lady presented her internship, I was like, yes, I know I'm going to do this. And I had no idea how, even at that point, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to afford this. Turns out I took out like a school loan to go down there.
Wow.
But yeah, I think that's usually very obvious. If you're to sit down and just, ask yourself the question, do I want this? And then close your eyes and say whatever comes out of your mouth, like yes or no, then that's the answer.
Yeah. And then if it's a maybe, it's probably a no.
Yeah, I think maybe is probably a no. I feel like if it doesn't like ring and you're like, yes, absolutely, yes, I want this. This is the thing for me. Then
Yeah.
it's not.
Yeah, yeah. And not paying attention to the story behind it, because the story behind it will take you all types of little ways and corners and nooks and crannies and up and down. And so, like, what is the initial feeling? That's how you build your intuition. And like I said before, it's not always going to be right, especially when you're starting to work with it, because you're just not sure of yourself. But just being aware and practicing is going to really help you to be more discerning in your life, following your signs.
Do you have any tips on like practicing that? You said, you have people put somebody gave me a donut on their manifestation list. That's really good.
Yeah. Yeah. I always have people make a short list of just random things that they want to see in their reality, just so that they can test their abilities, and it kind of gets them in a really exciting, how do you say, they just get very excited when they start to have the list come true. And so another thing I thought was interesting is, I don't know if you've ever read that book by Marie Kondo. It's The Joy of Tidying Up.
No.
Okay, so she has a technique in there where she's a woman from Japan, and she has this huge empire now, and it's all about tidying up your home, believe it or not. So she says that when you pick up an item, if it sparks joy, then keep it, and if it doesn't, throw it out. So that's the same concept. When you think about something, if it sparks joy, keep it, and if it doesn't, throw it out.
This great. I love it. It's so simple.
Yeah.
But yeah, just developing the muscle, asking yourself, is this for me? Maybe going shopping and looking at, some Tommy Bahama and being like, nope, that's not for me, bro.
Exactly. Yeah, just practice, have fun with it. And don't be so serious. People are too serious about it. Just, this life is meant to have fun, and just be, just let your inner child out, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. Let that feminine side out and play and move around and yeah, be silly. I agree. I think we do take everything, or not everything, but we do take most things too seriously. I mean, even up to and including death, honestly. Like, look at how much fear is surrounding, the whole world right now because of this virus. And, I don't want to talk about this too much just because, that's not why I'm having you on. I want to talk about, what we plan to, but just the amount of fear surrounding, people and look what that makes life into. It's just, it becomes a chore. It becomes difficult. It becomes hard. And then we start to just disidentify. We stop to look for signs. We stop to play. We stop to open up to the universe because of all the fear. Really, ultimately, when it comes down to it, we really have only two choices, and that's fear or love. And so, it's not always easy to choose love, for sure. But I think it's important because if you fear, I think it was, I don't know, somebody said, if you fear of life is fear, or fear of death is fear of life. Like, if you're afraid to go outside and live your life, then you are already dead.
Yeah, that's so true. That's absolutely true. And to me, I don't know, this might be getting a little deep, but I don't know. I don't think of death as a punishment. People are like, what? But I don't think of death as a punishment, because I've had, like I told you before, I've had an out-of-body experience, and I don't know if that's what it means to die, but I definitely, wherever I went, when I had that out-of-body experience, I had a deep meditative out-of-body experience using transcendental meditation. Wherever I was, it was blissful, And so for me, I'm not scared of death. And that's why I live my life the way I do, like not taking it so seriously and just having fun with it. And I'm extremely happy.
I agree with you. I really don't fear death either. I have a little thing on my, I don't like pain. I'll just a caveat with that. But like, I have a little thing, that a David Hale photocopied piece of art that has one of his like skulls on it. And it says, "You will die. Give thanks." And every time my mom comes over, she like covers up the "you will die" part with a magnet. And I'm like, damn it, woman. I want to see that. When I walk out, I want to be reminded, because it inspires me to know that, hey, the clock is ticking. And, if you don't do something now, then are you ever going to do it? So I think it's important to keep that in the forefront of our minds, that we're not going to be here forever, and not to be disrespectful to anybody else, but you gotta live your life. And if somebody's scared, then, and you want to stay home, or you want to do any number of things to keep yourself quote unquote safe, then by all means do that. Nobody's hating on that. I'm not trying to throw shade, of course, but I think it's interesting, your out of body experience. I sort of cheated on that, and when I was in California a few years ago, my friend got some DMT, and I had drove to the beach by myself, and I'd never tried it. I was really, really nervous, but I had a very similar kind of experience when I tried that, and I've had some other experiences too. That were very life affirming and out of body, and dissociative. But I think so too. I think that beyond this reality that we're experiencing, that's probably holographic, that's really a projection of our minds collectively, and that there is only God on the other side, or infinity, or love, or bliss. I mean, that's how I felt. I felt like I was being cradled by like a universal mother. I kept forgetting to breathe, and tears are just streaming down my face like nonstop. Yeah, yeah. It was incredible. Like, that was one of the most amazing experiences I've ever had, and it definitely changed me, because it shook me and made me realize that there was definitely a lot more beyond this. We get stuck here.
Yeah, reality seems a little more malleable when you have these deep experiences and you see beyond the veil.
Absolutely. And then, a lot of people who might be cynical or skeptical of the experience that maybe you or I might have, they might laugh a little bit at what we think, but they don't understand that the subjective experience, how rich that can be, I don't think. Like, if you write something down, like somebody threw a potato at me, right, on your manifestation list, and then you're walking down the street and somebody launches a potato at you, like, that's beyond, like, the astronomical, the odds of that, like, insane, right? And you hope that they miss, because that would. But like, it's a very real thing when you experience it, and the richness of that. And it has a similar essence, really, on almost to that experience that I had in California. It's like a lot of those feelings are there when I have a deep experience like that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Would you say you're tapping into the feminine side, like the ether?
I think so. Yeah. And I think that's really the gateway, the feminine, to dive down into that, into our own hearts, and into the dream world. And that's where the magic is, I think. And that's also where I think we're all connected, sort of telepathically or consciously, or I'm not really sure how to, say, but I mean, just like, 'cause infinity is real, so every reality has to exist somewhere. It might not be a physical location, but on the other side of reality, or whatever, there are untapped wells of amazing, cool things.
Yeah, it's the unknown, and that is definitely the feminine. It's the unknown, the darkness. She's the creator and the destroyer at the same time. And I totally agree. Yeah, we're all connected in a certain consciousness, and according to quantum physics, all realities exist at the same time, and we can't even fathom what is actually out there. So once you start to know these things, I think it's funny when people laugh at certain spiritual experiences that people have had, because I can tell that they've never had one themselves. Because when you speak about things like this, you'll get people who are like, yeah, I've had something like that happen to me, and then they'll share their experience. But then you also have people who are kind of like, oh no, that's not real, or something like that. But obviously it's because they've never had that type of experience.
For anybody who wants to try this out, I encourage you to try it out. And
smoke some DMT, people. And I'm just joking. I'm just joking. The world would be a lot cooler place.
I think so too. Yeah. More people
Everybody
should.
Yeah.
but I mean, only if I would never like, actually condone drug use. It was just,
Yeah.
I just needed that to break through the veil, like, I don't think
Yeah.
most people do, but I did.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so you guys, do some Satori meditation, do some chanting. What was it? Do some transcendental meditation.
Hmm.
Yeah, that stuff is awesome too. And I've had some really good experiences doing meditations and stuff too. And I'm going to try and start doing some like sort of music stuff that should be, to help encourage people to get into these sort of states because, I obviously the idea is for us to unite the masculine and feminine, and then when we do that and make love, as you call it,
Hmm.
then that's when we create a
Something
reality.
new. Yeah, sexy time with the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. That's all you gotta. When I talk about that, people really listen. They want to know more. So that's basically the gist of it, guys. Just have your conscious mind and your subconscious mind fuck, and then they'll make a baby, which is your
That's
new reality.
that's right. Yeah, the feminine womb and then the masculine action. So
Yeah, and there's a gestation period too. So during when you're creating something new, it's important. I always tell people to stay patient because just like a baby needs 9 months, or there's a gestation period for the baby. There's a gestation period for your manifestations as well. And during this time is the most important because this is when all of your fears are going to come up. All those subconscious fears, all of the doubts, all of these things will show up in your reality, and it's your job at that point to forgive all of these things that are coming up because all of these things are just a reflection of your own subconscious.
I like that a lot. I like that you forgive them because, for a lot of us, it's like, well, I can't not believe this for a second, or else I'll lose it. We put all of this like extra, importance on it and make it such a big deal and like put something on a pedestal. Also, it's really easy to not want to wait. I found ironically and comically that a lot of the things that I've wanted, by the time they get to me, I'm like, I'm over it.
That has happened to me too.
And that's always fun.
Yeah.
But the idea is the same, and there's a lot of different sort of techniques. If you look into like Hermetic magic, for instance, then they have literal spells and rituals that people do to unite the masculine and feminine over a certain thing. Then there's other types of like sigil magic, for instance, where you might draw a symbol that represents the thing that you like and then stack that, put it away in a drawer. And then you might you might charge it by, a little touchy, and then that's charged. And then you take that sigil and then you burn it, in the backyard, and then that releases it because I guess the idea is to create it and then to sort of forget about it, let go, and then watch it kind of come into existence from there.
Yeah. Sigil magic is actually really, really powerful. It's in everything, really. I mean, it's in Hollywood movies, and so I mean, there's like anything, like any tool, it can be used for good and bad. So yeah, I totally agree. Sigil magic is pretty fun.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
fun for everybody.
Yeah.
But for doubts, forgiving the doubts. Would you
Yeah.
talk about that? That's really profound, I think.
Yeah, so I have a technique that I always tell my clients. It's called Ho'oponopono. I didn't make it up, but it's a Hawaiian word that's basically just forgiveness. So it's 4 phrases. It's I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, and thank you. And the whole premise of it is you're basically forgiving yourself for thinking a negative perception, if that makes sense. So for example, say for like you have some issue that comes up into your reality where something is making you irritated, a person or a situation. That very thought that you had that perceives it as negative, you would basically say, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, to that thought. So you're in a way you're saying you're sorry to yourself for thinking those things,
Okay.
perceiving it as anything but perfectly normal.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, I like that a lot. I've only heard and I'm gonna mispronounce this. Hopopo. No. Oh, God damn
I
it.
love
What?
when people do this. No, please do.
Hopoponono. Hopoponapana. Ah. At least I got your name right this time. Jesus.
Thank you.
My friend Sean just destroyed me after that. My friend who we did the trans Murphing video together.
Yeah.
He's so funny. I love that guy. And he was just like, "Oh, Anuhea,
Oh
Anuhea."
my
He's just
gosh.
fucking with me like so hard. And he even says, "Dude, you got to get in there and you got to Anuhea that shit." You know? You
Oh
gotta-
my gosh. No,
So
he's
you have,
really
like,
funny.
Yeah, he's so funny. But I've never heard anybody talk about that like as on in a single person setting. I've heard people talk about it like as a couple, maybe go in and do this ritual. But I really like it as far as the thoughts. Because, we're constantly bombarded with all these weird thoughts. So we don't really even know where they come from. And some of them are fucking downright evil, right?
Ah, you're right. I would literally be sent to a fucking mental institution if I said every single thought that came to my mind. Yeah.
But I don't think we're really even the source of that. I think it's sort of flying around in the field or whatever. And every once in a while, it just sort of flies in there. So, when that weird thought, like an arrow punctures through your mind, you can just say, you know what, that's okay. Accept it. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. And thank you. Right.
Yeah, and then just be on your merry way. It's like, and then don't attach the guilt to it, because sometimes it's trippy what we think, and then we get caught up in the shame and the guilt about it. But it's just basically taking responsibility. Okay, I thought that. All right, I'm done, and then moving on. That way, your consciousness can remain open to what you're actually trying to manifest.
Yeah, and you're putting way less pressure on yourself now, and so you're in a much calmer place, a place that you can receive, a place that you can notice the signs around you that are pointing at you, and and you're not tripping. You're like, all right, well, cool. I'm just gonna kind of go along and see what gives with this. Like, I'm gonna let this thought go, and because one thing that I used to get in my way a lot, I have a very active imagination, so conjuring things up is no problem at all. But like, being obsessed with them and then having like a doubt and then one bad thing happening during the process that maybe made me think that it wasn't going to happen would completely throw me into a downward spiral. And then I would completely self-sabotage myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think it's really, an important thing to just try to remember in those times. Use this process in those times when you have a doubtful thought. Accept it, love it, let it be what it is, and then let it go. That can make a huge difference, because I would just one thing would just completely turn me into a spiral. I would start spiraling out of control because of one stupid thing that I couldn't control and had no control. It might be a ticket on my car or something, and I would freak out, and then all of a sudden, I'm, complaining about how unfair the world is, like a total victim, and just going into this really sad drama that absolutely isn't true, but believing it and then completely sabotaging my progress. Because I think you can do that if you hang on to those negative thoughts. But if you do what you're talking about here and just let go of them and just be fine about it, that's just part of the process. And just allow them to be, then I don't think they have any power at all whatsoever.
I absolutely agree. I think forgiveness is freedom, plain and simple.
Yeah, it is. It is freedom, and that's the path to unconditional love, And I think that's why it's important to be able to laugh. I mean, if you can laugh at something, it doesn't have power over you.
Exactly. Keep it playful.
Yeah, keep it playful. This is a fun game that we signed up for, even though we're joining militias and shit,
Right. Yeah. I mean, everything has its place, but if you can see the beauty in certain things, then you'll be fine. Everything's okay.
I think so too. Everything is okay. It's as good as it's going to be, and it might as well be fun anyway. What would the excitement be if nothing ever happened? This would just be a super lame simulation,
Absolutely.
Be like, take me to Pac-Man,
Yeah, it's multidimensional. We have different facets, and it's not always going to be fun and games. There's going to be times, but again, letting go, forgiving, and then getting back up and just keep on going.
Love it. That's great. Olivia, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me about this a little bit.
Thank you.
Of course. I'm always happy to talk to you. Please tell us where a little bit about your course and where people can find you.
Okay, so my course is Unveiling the 5D Woman, and I teach universal laws and how to work with the subconscious mind for manifestation. And I have a 90-day program, and I mostly work with women, but I do take some males. It's just on a kind of like I interview is what I do. Yeah. All my clients. I don't just take anybody. So it's the interview process that I go through. And you guys can find me at on Instagram at ascension.olivia.
Got it. I'm just making notes.
Thanks.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you want me to like email them to you later? Like take a picture?
Sure.
No, it's just mostly dicks. I just mostly drew dicks. You said have sex, and I just drew a bunch of penises.
Are you just doodling the whole time?
I do doodle. It's like my nervous tick whenever I'm interviewing somebody. And then
that too.
It helps me too because, I want to ask pertinent questions. I get lost if I'm not careful. I just sort of zone out and just go somewhere else. But
I think it's fun though. I think when we talk, we just talk about all types of things, and I think that's what makes it so super enjoyable for me.
I feel like we're on a patio, just having like a big bottomless margarita or something.
That would be fun. Let's manifest that.
Yeah, definitely. I've got some family there. I would love to come to Hawaii. I guess like Southwest flights are like $12, so I could just zip on over for an afternoon coffee and then make and then head on back. But my cousin's a life flight nurse, and then my other cousin's also over there, and I'm not sure what she's doing. She is usually does like service work, like she's like a chef. But I'm not really. I need to check in with her and see how she's doing. But
definitely.
But they're on the Big Island there. So.
Oh, Big Island's wonderful. It's so beautiful. You would absolutely love it.
I'm sure I would. When I was in Costa Rica, a lot of people talked about how similar Costa Rica is compared to Hawaii. And I don't know, but it was beautiful, and I'm sure Hawaii is incredible. My aunt used to live there, so.
Yeah, you gotta come on over. I'll meet you.
Yeah, for sure. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
And especially once it starts getting cold here.
This is the best place to be. Warm all year round.
Awesome. Well, congratulations to you on all of your months as in the calendar. That's amazing. Like I knew you were July, and because I remember you like announced it last year around the time that we talked, and I was like, oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
But also, what are the other months and what are the name of the calendars real quick?
I believe the name of the calendars are Women of Hawaii, Hawaii Women, and I don't know, something about women in Hawaii. I'm in 3 or 4 different calendars. I told Owen that whoever the photographer was really pimping my photos out because I'm in several issues. I believe I'm in July, November, March. So far, that's all of the 3 months I know about.
That's awesome.
Yeah, you guys can check me out at basically the gas station. That's where they have a lot of them. I thought that was hilarious. My friend sent me a screenshot of it. They're like, "Hey, I see you at the gas station." I'm like, "Oh my god!" Wow. Well, I'm famous.
You are, and you're doing great things too. Thank you so much for all the work you're doing and the positive energy that you're putting out there. It is important. And I appreciate it, and I know I'm not the only one.
Thank you, Owen. I appreciate you.
You're awesome. I appreciate you too, and I will talk to you soon.
All right. Mahalo.
Mahalo. Well, you heard it here first, folks. Bop on down to that Hawaiian gas station, grab a can of Spam and a calendar. Support Olivia at ascension.olivia on Instagram. And just a quick note, I wanted to mention this, that Olivia had written down on her manifestation list to be asked to be on a podcast. And I just want to say, I'm really happy to have been a part of making that a reality. So thanks everybody again. We'll see y'all next time.